everyone, it's Karen here and welcome back. Today I'm excited to create another new project, and today I'm creating an altar tag, mixed media tag using a lot of mixed media Finnabair products. I am just going to tell you what I used to do this. I actually used a packaging from one of the stencils. These stencils, these new stencils from Prima, and actually every stencil that I've ever been from Prima comes with beautiful packaging. And all I did is use this stencil to create the tag. I mean, not the stencil. I use the stencil as well, but I use the packaging. It's really cool. I saved a lot of packaging, and I wanted to create this extra large tag. It's a frosty looking tag. We were challenged to use things that make it look like a frost or winter themed. So although this has a few snowflakes and other elements that look winterish, it could be used for any type of occasion. So the first thing I did is I created texture in the background. So I'm going to put this aside. And one of the amazing things that I like doing is recycling things. I love recycling any type of cardboard, any type of packaging, and you're going to see today two different ways where I'm using packaging on my project. So the first thing is just to create texture. I'm going to place this stencil over here, and I'm going to use paper texture. This has become one of my favorite mediums lately. I mean, beside the basic ones like gesso and gel and everything, but in terms of texture paste, this is one of my favorites because it has so many different uses. I really love the texture of that one because it creates really cool texture in the background. And I also love it because you can create the frost that you see over here. So that will be my last step, my first and my last step. You're going to see what I mean by that. So I'm going to take one of my silicone brushes. This is one of my, again, another favorite thing that I love from Prima is these brushes. And I'm going to create texture, but I don't want to cover everything with texture. I only want to do it in certain areas where I know it's going to show. So mainly it's at the bottom of my tag. That's a good place to put it. And you want to kind of put it in places where you know it's going to show and you're not adding embellishment in that area. So all I'm doing is just creating texture. And what I like about this one is that it dries very rough. It has like paper texture in it. So it creates a really nice rough texture. And it's actually sandable. So you can sand it if you don't want it to be rough. You can actually have it smooth. And there it is. That's one side of the texture. And the other one I'm going to do up here. I might turn this around just because I don't want to muck up the rest of the areas. And all you do is you just create the same pattern kind of on the other side. Very easy to do. I'm just going to add some more. So as you can see, I'm going to do the same type of layout or composition. So most of it is going to be over here. So it doesn't really matter if you cover that area because it's not going to be shown. And I try to clean my stencil as much as possible. The silicone brush is soft enough that it really works well when you add it to the stencil. So there we go. And now you have easy texture that is really nice and not too hard to do. So I'm just going to dry this up. So I don't really care that the stencil words like, you know, the Finnabair logo is there because truthfully, I am going to be covering it all up with the paints. Impasto paints are pretty thick, which is what I'm going to be using, the new Impasto paints that Finn just came out with. So you're going to see that they give you beautiful coverage. So I'm excited to use those. All right, so I just cleaned my stencil a little bit, and now I'm going to just quickly dry. Now, another thing I love about this paper texture is that it dries really quickly. Okay, you see it's already drying. Good. Okay, So there's two options here, and I could first cover it in white gesso, and I might do that just because it's a dark surface and it's all the dark surface behind. I want to be able to cover it. And I don't know if you've seen the new packaging for Finnabair Art Basics. So for all of them, this is the new one. It's called it's the heavy gesso. It's the white one. And I'm just going to give this a quick cover. Very light. I might even put a little bit of water just so it's not as heavy. I really want it to just be a light cover. And the reason why I'm doing that is because number one, I want this to dry quicker, just because I'm strapped in time. And the second reason is because I just want it a little bit primed, right, for putting the paint on. It's not necessary. Actually, don't even know if I used it the original time. I might have not, but just to show you that you can. So I'm just putting a really light coat. It doesn't really matter that it doesn't cover the black because I'm going to be adding the rest of the stuff afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to dry. Oops, see, my hand went right in. I'm going to dry this up, and then we'll get going on the next page. I mean, on the next step. The other thing is that when you put a thin coat, it does dry quicker. I realized here my paste wasn't dry, so it kind of mushed a little bit, and that's okay. It just gives it texture. One of the tips I like giving with mixed media is that nothing has to be perfect with mixed media. So if you smush something or something doesn't come out straight, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's just nice to have, things just kind of messy. If you like, some people don't like the messy look, but it's a good thing to do, and you don't have to worry that things won't work out, right? So for this background, what I used these three new Impasto paints. There's the mint color, which is a beautiful, like kind of aqua color. Then there is the linen, which is like a beigey color. And then there is the Manor blue, which is a beautiful blue, which I added as well. And I played with it a little bit with each one. So I literally don't have a science on how I do this, but I just put some on my paintbrush. You can put some on here, and then just start painting. And this color, I specifically picked this color, not only because of its frosty look, but also because it matched perfectly with the Flirty Fleur collection, which is what I used for this tag. So sometimes I do need to add a little bit of water to the impasto paint, and that helps it blend better. Okay, I'm going to put the linen one. It's a little bit softer. Some of them are thicker than others. And I will put some of that blue as well, but not yet. So you see what's nice about the impasto paints is because they're so thick, you only need one coat and it literally covers everything. I'm going to add some of this blue now. The good thing about putting all the colors on your mat is that you can blend them easier. What happens is that you end up with a lot of, with a big mess, but at least you're able to blend the colors. And I love blending. So because these come in tubes, you have to use them this way. And you have to know more or less how much to put. So my tip is to always start with a little bit and then use more. Like always add more on your desk, but you don't want to put too much because then you're wasted and you can't return it back into the pot, unfortunately. And the reason why I'm adding water, besides the fact that I want them to blend, is because I really want that texture to show. And one good way of doing that is to dilute the paint so it's thin enough that you're able to blend it, and it's thin enough that you can see the pattern underneath. Okay, so there we go. That was it. That's easy enough, right? I am going to put this aside and I want to show you why. One of the cool things that I'm going to be doing is, okay, let me just go and explain what I mean. For this one, I used a resin frame. Prima has the most beautiful resin frames that exist. And I love this one. It's a small resin frame. And the thing is that after using it, and I knew I had to redo this, I realized that I did not have another one. So how do you remedy that? This is the biggest tip you'll know, and this is exciting to know this, okay? I use the plastic packaging. And it might not be as perfect as the resin frame. So this is what I did. This is the bigger version and the smaller version. They come like this. There's a bigger frame and a smaller frame. And, and what I did is that I cut around them. And I have here, oops, the smaller frame. And all I did is painted it in white gesso. So it looked like this before. And then I painted it in white gesso. And I'm going to use it instead. So the biggest tip is to actually save your packaging. If you have other frames, for example, here they come like this. They come in this type of packaging. This is a different kind. Okay, this was another frame, and then what you do is you just cut around it, and you can use the packaging as well. So this one, I've used the frame already. So all you have to do is use the packaging. It's a great time saver. It's a great way of reusing things. And it still looks like a frame. I mean, I did a really bad cutting job, but I'm going to like kind of hide that a little bit with the flowers. So that's basically what I'm going to do. So I even have the tag, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Flirty Fleur collection, like I said. And this is where I got this is one of the papers, and this is where I got the how do you call this? The one of the sayings. And I'm going to see which one fits nicely. So there's "You're beautiful," "Thinking of you." I like "Thinking of you." Maybe I'll do that. So I'm going to cut this, and that's going to be my center. So that's a nice one. "Thinking of you" would be perfect for that. And it doesn't really matter if I cut it crooked because you will not see it. It will just go in the center. That will be what I will put in the frame. Okay, so there we go. So that's good. And I can also use more of this paper to frame. So here, this one has like a little bit of a map pattern. And I have some more scraps here. I did another project with this, and I have a bunch of scraps that I thought would be perfect for this. So for example, these long ones I put kind of at the end here. So these are perfect for that. And all I do is I start building my project around this. I have this other scrap over here. And all I do literally is I just rip them. Doesn't really matter if it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to create volume. And see, no, this one is not needed. Oh, another thing that I did is that I used one of these frames. So all these for the Flirty Fleur collections, all the flowers come with frames. And this one might be too dark. Let me see if there's one that is a little bit lighter. Let's see. There's this one as well. Maybe this one is better. So look how pretty this is. So I think I'm going to use this one instead. I think it's a little bit lighter, matches more my background. And let's see, what else could I use? I could use a piece of this. And I mean, I love using everything that is left over. This is good. And you won't even see it that much. It's more for just adding layers and textures. So I play around with this and then I glue it all. Let's see what else I can put here. I'm looking at my little baggie of goodies. Oh, a really nice one, which I don't know, I just trying to see. Okay, so yeah, this is enough for the papers, I think. I don't want to add too much because it takes a long time. I can add a little bit more of the matte one. So I literally just rip things up. And I think can go underneath here and underneath here. I don't even know whatever happened to the other piece of matte that I used. Okay, so now all I do is I just glue this. It's really easy to do, and it's just using some gel. I'm going to use 3D matte gel. You could use soft gel as well. I just like the matte gel is a little bit thicker. It will just keep things in place. I really need, because I'm doing a live show, I need to keep things in place. So it's really important to do it that way. And just going to use glue all across here. So, oops. There we go. And then, oh, there's the matte one that I used. Let's cut this up a little bit in half. So I'm going to add it even in the back. It doesn't really matter. It's just adding layers. You could use any type of layering technique for this one. I've seen people staple it to each other and creating a really nice mat that way. This one can go here. And I'm basically just adding layers. That's all it is. And it's quite easy to do. You do want to create movement for your composition. A good tip is to always have the longer pieces kind of go on the edges and the shorter pieces center in the middle. That way, everything draws into your focal point. And my focal point in this case is a frame. So I want to make sure that my eye will draw, when I look at it, when I look at this tag, that my eye draws directly to the picture frame. The made up picture frame, the one I'm making right now. Okay. Okay, and oh, this I have to glue. I did not glue this one. Okay. And the nice thing is that you will not see these. You see how even if you're showing some pieces here, they will not show eventually because I'm adding flowers and I'm adding so many things to this that you will not see anything. So it's not a problem to just have it all mishmashed. Okay, there we go. And now I can have this frame over here. And it looks perfectly good. Maybe just a little bit more of this here. So for this, I want to use, just to raise it up a little bit, I'm going to use foam tape. You could use any type of foam or anything like that, cardboard, whatever you want. It's a good tip to use cardboard to raise things up. I'm going to use foam tape, okay? And I might have to cut this, hold on. All right, so what I put some tape here, but even though it has tape on it, it has stickiness on it, I still want to add a little bit of the gel because it sticks much better. I like to reinforce it if I can. So there we go. There it is, and it's just a little bit raised. So it's really easy to do. Not hard at all, right? Now for this is going to go around here. Okay, let me think about this. So I'm going to first glue this on top somehow. Thinking of you. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do my flower arrangement. And for that, I'm going to use a few other flowers. I also grabbed a couple things. I grabbed these. These are like snowflakes, mechanical snowflakes. These are the vintage snowflakes. That's what they are, okay? And I used a few of them for the other one. Actually, this is the full version of it. This is all that comes in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the leftover ones for this one. I use different ones on the other one. And I'm also using these older flowers. I will tell you what they're called. I'm not sure they're available, but I wanted to match the colors. The aqua colors is that, well, I don't know the name, but it's 577612 is the name of the flower. It's just Prima flowers. So these are old, but I thought they were a perfect match. And then I'm going to use a bunch of Flirty Fleur flowers. So let's see. I think I've taken some. So these are good. And these. And these are really good as well. Okay, perfect. So the flower arrangement, oh, and I also have some cheesecloth, so that's as well something that I want to use. So the flower arrangement is, I mean, it's easy for me because I've been doing it for so many years, but if you don't know how to arrange flowers, and it's like a silly thing to say, what do you mean don't know how to arrange flowers? Everybody knows how to arrange flowers, but there is a little bit of a method that I like using, and that is that I like putting bigger flowers to anchor my composition. And what do I mean by that? I really like using bigger flowers in the bottom area. If you see here, I use the bigger flower and then smaller flowers to kind of move around. There is a way that the eye draws directly to something that is big. So you want to make sure you put it in a strategic place, because if you put too big of a flower, let's say over here, what would happen is that your eye would draw directly to this area. So you want to make sure that you're putting your big flower in this area here. And actually, I don't have a big flower, which I thought I had. I had another one here, but I don't see it. So maybe I'll use this one, I guess. It's not big enough, but it will do. It will be a little bit different. And some of these flowers come pretty flat, so you can just crunch them up and just make them bunched up. So I love these mid flowers. And I'm arranging this. I haven't glued this yet, but I want to arrange it in a way that it will match the embellishments. Let's see. I think I'm going to have to put one underneath here to kind of balance this out. That's good. And no, this black one I won't use. And then I need a few little ones. So let's use the little ones from over here. I mean, all of them are beautiful. I can't really tell you whether sunflowers are nicer than others. They're all really beautiful. I love Prima flowers. So truthfully, I wouldn't be able to like say, oh, one is more beautiful than the other. And you can see this one actually comes with chipboard. It's very cool. And this one over here. So, I mean, it won't be the same arrangement as before. Definitely not the same arrangement. But that's okay. No, this one does not look nice there. Never mind. So let's see. There's some more little flowers here. Let's see if I need any more. I need one more. Okay, I think that's good. Let's see compared to the other one. Oh, and I'm going to put the snowflakes. Now the snowflakes, this is cool. So for example, one like this snowflake, this is a very cool, another cool tip that you can do is that you can cut this one in half. It cuts pretty easily, just metal. And then you can add it in two separate places. So for example, let's say I want it here to get the texture there, but I also want it here. So I have two pieces sticking out and it's perfectly all right. And I want this snowflake over here. And this one is a really nice snowflake. So let's see, we'll put it over here. Okay, there we go. And I think the last one should go here. So that's basically my arrangement. And now all I do is just glue everything on. So it's really easy to do because I already have most of the stuff already there. So it's really easy to just add the glue, and I'm using the same one, the 3D matte gel. And I'm going to just add it here. So I'm using this 3D gel to basically glue everything. It doesn't really matter what you use. You can use like any type of glue, silicone glue, whatever you have at hand, something that obviously holds metal and holds things. And look, I'm almost done. Okay, so now just to be careful with this frame, because obviously it's made out of plastic packaging, but I'm going to put a little bit of foam tape behind this one. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to add this glue here. I want to be careful not to get this closer to myself, not to get it too mucked up here. The nice thing about this gel, I mean, you can also use the heavy gel, but the nice thing about this is that I can work with this afterwards and not have to wait until it dries, because I truly don't have the time or patience to let this dry right now, because I want to get going with the next step. As you can see, I could have actually cut this flower as well, but I didn't. It's okay. And one more here, and the last one. So I can really now move things around just to kind of hide things a little bit. So in some areas where I think the frame looks a little bit weird, maybe I can cut this up, hide this. Okay, that's good. So there we go. And what do I, oh yeah, and then I want to use a little bit of the cheesecloth as well. I love using cheesecloth. This is already one that I've used. So while I still have the glue underneath, all I have to do is just kind of fit it underneath. And because there's already glue, it just stays put. So it's really easy to just stick it anywhere. And if you're not, you can always add some more. Like this one, I think needs a little bit more. So you go and you put it through like this. It adds beautiful texture to the background. Okay, I'll separate some of this. And I'll put some over here. So in order to kind of hide the frame here as well, I'm going to add this on top as well, like this. And kind of hide things a little bit, especially because I was not very careful when I cut the plastic. It was not as easy to cut. And one package of cheesecloth literally costs like $3 or something like that, and it lasts you forever and ever and ever. Yeah. I want to add one last flower here. I'm going to add one more, just hiding a little bit over there, some of the areas that I didn't want to show. Okay, that's good. I almost want to add that there. Yeah, you see, like my problem is that I don't know when to stop. I don't know when to stop. And because I want to make my little triangle, I'm going to have to put that one over there. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, so I needed a little bit more flowers, as you can see. And I stuck, like you see, I have this triangle of stripes. So it's really good for composition-wise, especially for scrapbooking or for any type of even mixed media, to have that triangle. So there we go. Now I really have it all set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few finishing touches. One of the things that I wanted to do is, as I said before, is use the paper texture for adding snowflake effect. But before that, I'm going to take a little bit of these colors again, and using my paintbrush, I'm going to add a little bit of color to this frame. Kind of make it blend in. It's too stark white, and you want it to blend in a little bit with the rest. So there you go. Like you see, now it kind of blends in with everything. And I also did that with the papers over here. I just find that it's kind of helps it blend in. And if you make a mistake, like what I just did, and added too much, you can always remove. So the nice thing is that while it's still wet, you can remove it and add it in again. So I really wanted to blend in everything. There we go. I am adding a little bit of color. I might add a little bit of blue as well to the snowflakes. So to make them stand out a little bit more. And a little bit of this to the frame. And the last thing I'm going to use a little bit of this color, very little, but you see I'm just kind of putting a little bit of my paintbrush just to kind of blend everything in. So even on some of the really white flowers, I'm adding a little bit of color. It kind of helps it all blend. And then before I put the last finishing touch with this texture paste, I'm going to add some of these. These are truthfully just beautiful. These are the Satin crystals. This is from the Flirty Fleur collection. And I'm going to open a new one because I want to use the aqua color ones, the turquoise ones. And it comes with sticky stuff. Sometimes I have to add extra stickiness to it, but today I think it should be fine because I just opened it. So I like adding the bigger ones closer to the frame. And then the smaller ones can go further away. That creates movement for the eye. Okay, there we go. And now all I have to do is just do the last touch, which is the paper texture. And let me tell you, this is my favorite part of it all. And let me grab a different paintbrush, a little bit of a smaller one. You can add this with a palette knife. You can do anything with it. How to add it to your background to create frost. So I just use a paintbrush and I start adding it lightly on the flowers, for example. Okay. Only at the edges of the flowers. You can add it on the snowflakes, but not everywhere, okay? Because then you kind of take away the effect of the snowflake. Here. So not only does this paste create like amazing rough texture in the background, but it also can be used as like frosting for any type of winter layout or basically anything at all. Okay. The other thing that I love doing with this is adding it to the edges of things. So for example, I want to add it to the borders. And I have to say, this is the original. This paper texture came out last year. And I think I've used this a lot. Let me just tell you, I've used this a lot. And maybe in the total, I've used maybe 2. This might be my second one. It really goes a long way. So there's that. And I'm going to add it on the other side. Now you could frame it, you could add it everywhere and frame your whole tag. I'm not going to do that because I really like how it was only in some places. So that's basically it. I mean, here, let me show you the other one. Let me make sure. So these are the 2 tags. They're pretty similar. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining today. Thank you for coming every week. For those of you who are new, welcome. And thank you so much for everything. We really appreciate you joining us every week. And I hope you enjoyed yourself and have an amazing day. Bye.